Welcome back to another arena draft here with Mike. This is our third draft in July, shooting for the top 1,000 in Mythic this month. We coming off the back of an okay start with a Burros aggro deck into an Orzhov deck that looked pretty okay, but we drew pretty bad. Our opponents drew pretty well. We punted a game, so all told, we had a not great result, but the deck was okay. So let's see if we can do a little bit better this time. As I've said before, we're pretty consistently. If you can go 4-3 in all your drafts, not only will your win rate be pretty fine, like that's 57% win rate, which is okay, but you will climb up the ladder efficiently and not waste gems doing it. So 4-3 is always the goal. Obviously, trophies are what we're looking for, but 4-3 is the floor of what we are looking to do in any given draft. So starting this one off, we grabbed the Satya. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I hope I am. Over a Wrath of the Skies, which probably just wrong, but this card is really fun and really cool, and I like playing with it, so I'm playing with it. That's it. That's the whole tweet. Wrath of the Skies, for anybody interested, was the correct pick. That's the one that you should pick. It's single color. It's very powerful. But, Satya is really fun. And if you want to have fun, have fun. And we're coming off the back of some not great drafts, so let's have a little fun. We're going to take our 3-colored Commander Mythic Rare and enjoy ourselves. So anyway, Satya plays well with energy, so grabbing a Riddlegate Gargoyle, pick 2, both within the Jeskai colors, and an energy card, which means copying it with Satya turns into, free, because it pays back the energy that you have to spend to get it. Yeah. It's all good. Everything's wonderful. Waiting for pack number 2. I've drafted the Jeskai deck before. One of the very first drafts we did was a sweet Satya deck. And it's just... the card is very cool to play with, but also, kind of difficult to make happen. Again, being 3 colors, you don't get to be in green, which means you don't get the good fixing out of like a Dryad or anything like that. So you do have to rely on modal dual-faced cards, landscapes, making sure you're fixing your colors. So you do have to take them pretty aggressively to make sure your colors work. Excuse me. Pick 3, Cyclops Superconductor. Not the best card. Not a bad one to copy with Satya. Bunch of Cyclopses make for a good time. But, yeah, not particularly fantastic third pick. Like I said, if we're first picking the Satya and just trying to make this work, we're trying to have a little bit of fun in this draft. Serum Visionary is very good. Area Auxiliary is very good. Area Auxiliary is very good to make copies with Satya. So is Serum Visionary. So kind of happy either way there. We have a perfect on-color landscape or a Ral in the Implicit Maze here, I think. Both of those things are much more interesting to me than Brain Surge or Cephalid Coliseum. I would really, really like to wheel that landscape. We'll see if we do, but I would really like to. There's another commander card, but that one's unplayable. We have a 2 of our color landscape. We have an Envoy of the Ancestors, which is pretty good. We have a Petrifying Meddler, which is pretty good. But it is a cast trigger, making it significantly worse with the Satya. Yeah, Envoy's fine. We're happy to take that. This pack has a Sink into Stupor, so a modal dual-faced land. We would love to get preferably the dual lands when it comes to the modal dual-faced lands, but Sink into Stupor is just a good card that fits into the land slot, and we're happy about it. Solstice Zealot better than Electrozoa, Distinguished Conjurer, mediocre. Yeah, I'm not, thrilled with any of these. Sure. 2-drop instead of a 3-drop because we're already starting to glut up in 3s. This landscape is 2 of our 3 colors, so it's better than nothing. We're not really trying to play the Waterscape Battle Mage. We don't intend to have colorless mana laying around in our deck. Copy Crook is fine. Tamiyo's is going probably straight into the sideboard. Tamiyo meets the story circle. Make some clues, discard your hand. Yada yada yada. Not really something that we're interested in, but Barbarian Ring also isn't something we're particularly interested in. So this Tamiyo's is just gonna ultimately make its way into the sideboard eventually. Preferably now, but you know, we're still in back one. So, landscape is only one of our colors, so we're not really interested. Second, Tamiyo's. And this, to be fair, is an uncommon that I didn't have a playset of yet, so, you know, it fills that role. Cephalid Coliseum may or may not ultimately make the deck. It's not at its best in the Jeskai archetype, but it is, in fact, you know, better late game than nothing. Like, and it takes up a land slot. So as long as you can afford the pain that it may provide, you'll be okay. This pack looks like an Ajani Fells the Godsire. Try to wheel the Cyclops Superconductor. The Mandibular Kite is also fine, but I'm not trying to first pick it over an Ajani Fells the Godsire, I don't think. So, our curve is looking a little high right now. We are going to need to prioritize some cheaper creatures, specifically. Right now we only have 2, and one of them I could stand to cut. Voltstorm Angel, very powerful card. There's a Inspired Inventor, a Rush of Inspiration, and a Razorgrass Ambush. There's also a Chris, but obviously, you know, we're already trying to be a 3-color deck, not trying to play the 4th color for a Writhing Chrysalis. We take the Voltstorm Angel. Copying it with Satya is kind of nuts if we get a chance to do that. Just more 4/4 bodies attacking. If we get those triggers later, then it's great. And because Satya gives you the 2 energy when you make a copy, the Angel ETB giving you 3 more energy is enough to in fact pay for the Angel even from nothing. So you could have 0 energy and just go Satya into Voltstorm Angel, attack with Satya, copy Voltstorm Angel, and keep the copy. Just FYI. Satya works very well with all of the energy producing creatures. I can't think of any off the top of my head that you don't get to keep even if you started the turn with 0 energy. Metastatic Evangel is fantastic. There's a Thraben Charm. There's also the Jeskai Landscape. And again, notably, we did not wheel the Jeskai Landscape out of Pack 1, so we really do want to pick those up at some point. But I'm not going to take the Landscape over a Metastatic Evangel. The Metastatic is exactly what we're looking for. Static Prison, another fantastic card. Very good pickup for what we're trying to accomplish here. Plays into our energy. We should have a good pile of energy kind of left over after everything else that we're doing. So we can keep that Static Prison around for a good long time if we really need to. And yeah, just a good piece of removal, which is kind of exactly what we're looking for. Not sure why I sideboarded that Copy Crook right there, but it's okay. So here we have some choices. We got to decide what our splash is and what our base is. Right now we know that we're white and we're trying to play both blue and red. But if we want to take these 2 drops, either the Conduit Goblin or the Battlecake Gargoyle, we kind of need to commit to 2 base colors and then go from there. We can just grab the Hexgold Slith or the Area Auxiliary if we want to. And yeah, I like taking the Gargoyle there and just kind of like saying that we are a white-blue deck with a red splash for the Satya Cyclops Superconductor and maybe the Rouse, depending on what our mana looks like. Shattered Landscape being a white-red fetch versus Bountiful Landscape being a blue-red fetch. I like taking the blue-red here, as white should be our primary color, so it should be the least difficult color for us to just naturally have. We do, in fact, wield this Mandibular Kite. We also wield the Cyclops Superconductor. I'm a big fan of the Kite, to be perfectly honest. I think this might just be leaning a little too hard into the energy deck. I think Mandibular Kite ultimately comes in a little bit more handy, but I'm not going to be upset about having a Superconductor here. We also wield that Rush of Inspiration, so we did pick up one of those modal dual-faced lands that I was hoping to get. We could still use some Suppression Ray or more Rush. You know, wheeling a couple 1-drops and like last picking some 1-drops that give us energy. Very happy about that. So we have Eldrazi Linebreaker, which would be good, except that we don't really intend to have colorless mana anywhere in our deck, so it's going to make it hard to keep this thing around, and it's realistically going to be like +1/+0 every turn, although that is still pretty powerful. Also, making copies of it with Satya would be nuts, but again, we're not planning on doing that. We're just going to take the second Volt Storm Angel. So, again, Volt Storm Angel, just a very, very powerful creature. You know, if Serra Angel is good, then Serra Angel that can also buff your team or have lifelink or do other things, plus pay into your energy package that you already have. Obviously pretty powerful. Man, I miss the days of Serra Angel being like an absolute bomb in Limited. Simpler times. That's Subtlety. We're gonna take Subtlety. Like I don't think there's a world where we don't take Subtlety here. The Izzet Generatorium would be interesting if I don't know that we can really pay for energy at a time in this deck. I think is the big problem with the Generatorium. It's very difficult to pay that much and therefore get the payoff of being able to draw cards. But Subtlety is always going to be good. Going to be difficult to pitch cast in this deck, but that's alright. We have a Jeskai Landscape, we have a Sink into Stupor, and then we have some other blue cards that are fine, but realistically it's between those two, and yeah, just grab the Jeskai Landscape. We're in pack 3, we didn't wheel either of the previous ones, and we really want our mana to work for this deck. So pretty happy with how this deck is turning out, if I'm honest. Like, we first picked the Satya over a Wrath of the Skies, but we're still like almost a mono white deck, which feels pretty good. So this is a second Jeskai Landscape or a Thraben Charm. How are we looking on removal? We have Static Prison, Dog Umbra, Johnny Fells the Godsire, and Ravel in the Implicit Maze. And Razorgrass Ambush and Sink into Stupor. Okay. I think the Thraben Charm, we maybe should have grabbed at least one of the ones that we've seen. But I don't mind taking the Tricolor Landscape and just making sure that our mana works. Again, like we are choosing to be this 3-color pile, even if we are a base single-color deck, base white. So making sure, yeah, and here's another Landscape over a playable card. Just making sure that we can cast our spells. Yet another Landscape. We're probably... I don't know if we're going to play all of these Landscapes. We're definitely going to play the Perilous Landscapes. And then that's... Now we have 4 2-color Landscapes here. Utter Insignificance is fine. Inventor's Axe is fine, but we already have one. Yeah, just grab the Utter Insignificance so we have another piece of interaction. Bespoke Battle Wagon is almost exactly what we want for this deck, though we are a little glutted on 4s, maybe, and 5s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fours. There's a rush. Wonderful. More modal dual-faced lands and another dual land at that. 4 5s and 5 4s is a little bit more top-heavy than I personally prefer to be. But, like, at least all of those cards are powerful. Third Cyclops Superconductor. And yeah, we start shipping stuff to the side and see where we go. The late pick Deem Unworthy, which is functionally a 3-drop, because you always have your draw for turn at a minimum. And then, obviously, it can be less if you draw any cards at any other point. So, literally, the pause there was just to see which one I had less of and just take it. Petrifying Meddler, big dumb 5-drop. Big, like, good cast trigger, but probably not what we're looking for in this deck, but maybe. Yeah, okay. Alright, so according to Draftsmith, we want to cut the Distinguished Conjurer and the Utter Insignificance, and then change around our lands a little bit. Which it wants us to play 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 lands with, I think, 4 or 5 little dual-faced cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So that's 19 total mana sources. 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 19 potential mana sources. I think I like having the Cephalid Coliseum in the deck over a basic island, but it's kind of fine. The question is do I want this Utter Insignificance back? Because, again, we are pretty light on cheap cards and removal. The Distinguished Conjurer I'm not, again, a big fan of, but I'm also a little creature light if we're trying to curve up to this Satya. And blinking like Area Auxiliary or any of these energy makers is not the worst thing in the world. The Bespoke Battle Wagon, very good. Hey, we're playing against LSV. That's neat. Playing against Magic celebrities is always cool. No reply, Sag. I wouldn't be surprised if he has emotes turned off. He probably gets message or sees a lot of emotes and would see a lot of emotes on Arena, given his popularity. So, we have the Rush that we can use as a land if we need to, but we don't need to use it right now. We get to use the Landscape to make sure that we have good mana over the first couple turns. So we find a red source here. That's the one of Mountain that's in the deck, and then we have 2 rushes to make the double red for Rouse. It's a little light, but we do have a bunch of the landscapes that can find the mountain as well. So nothing to do. Like, our hand is almost entirely reactive. We can rush right away if we just want to draw 2. Eldrazi Linebreaker is kind of scary. Like, this thing's about to hit pretty hard pretty quickly. And our removal here is all badly positioned, right? Like, Dog Umbra on a Linebreaker is bad. It still gets to trigger every turn and do what it wants to do, even if it itself can't attack. Might as well grab a blue source since we have double island in our hand. Okay, glad we grabbed a blue source since we drew a double blue card. Yeah, so we can deem Inferior to just reset the Linebreaker. Or we can try to rush, but yeah, I like just doing this because we still don't have anything to commit to the board. So if we're stuck, we might as well buy ourselves a little bit of time. There's the Writhing Chrysalis. Man, that would have been a really good curve. Glad we got rid of that for the moment. So we're playing the rush as a land that turn because the Ral and the Implicit Maze can at least clean up these spawn tokens, even if that's not particularly great. Obviously, the Writhing Chrysalis can sacrifice them, and that's bad, but we're not doing much else. So, Dog Umbra has Flash. There's no reason to do it right now. Sink into Stupor is an instant. We can potentially buy time with that. Malevolent Rumble's fine. That's a Breaker of Creation. That's 2 Breaker of Creations and a Path of Annihilation. Like, this deck looks awesome. LSV, your deck looks awesome. I don't know if you uploaded this. I might have to check it out and see if you did. This deck looks friggin' fantastic. So we get away with the Dog Umbra on the Linebreaker this turn only because he targeted the Linebreaker, which makes sense. Like, 8 power is a lot. The problem here, obviously, is that Linebreaker is going to keep getting to target things. So we get to play Rouse here and sweep up all these tokens, which keeps him off of Breaker at least. But it's like that. It's still not great. The Chrysalis is going to grow to 5 power, and then +2 from the Linebreaker, assuming he does actual nothing. And the only creature that we've drawn this game is the Cyclops Superconductor, which obviously not cutting it, not really doing what we need it to do. So we're buying time, but we're about to take a huge hit. Petrifying Meddler was the last card. Jesus. So that Malevolent Rumble saw Path of Annihilation, double Breaker, and the Petrifying Meddler. Jeez. This Glimpse, yeah, like, we don't even bother playing any of these. We just want the tokens, right? This is a giant hit again. So we take 9. He gets the 3 tokens, which means he's going to get to cast the Breaker this coming turn. And give it haste. Sink into Stupor was probably the incorrect discard. It should have been the Rush, I think, because the Sink into Stupor can at least... I believe, could have bounced the Breaker on the stack. That said, like, I'm dying. 3, 4, 5, 6... Petrifying Meddler can target the Writhing Chrysalis. That doesn't matter. Yeah, we're just... The Linebreaker is going to trigger with a bunch of Spawn and other Eldrazi. We take a big hit no matter what. We discarded the Sink into Stupor, which I think was the only way to deal with the Breaker. That was beating. LSV, your deck was great. My draw was real bad. I didn't draw creatures, but your deck was great, and it is what it is. Not that I expect LSV to watch this channel. Alright, we have lands and spells. We need a red source, but any land lets us curve out with the Aerie into a Voltstorm Angel. Red source specifically. There we go. There's the red source. So we have to choose whether we're going to miss our 2 or our 3 here. Yeah, okay. So because we play the landscape, it means if we draw the basic mountain, we mess up our curve. Because if we draw the basic mountain, we could have gone Conductor into Auxiliary. We didn't, so it's fine. We would have missed our 3-drop this turn anyway. But it also means if we had drawn a different 3-drop, depending on what it was, yeah. Not perfect playing the landscape that turn. We should have held the landscape and just played Island last turn. We weren't punished, but it's still true. Alright. So this goes and finds our mountain, and we have good mana. Yippee. And now we can be mana efficient and play the Aerie Auxiliary, but it would only put 1/1/1 counter on a thing. Our opponent also has a bunch of mana open and is, you know, I don't know if they have removal or anything, so... we're not blocking. The attack here is bad if they have specifically like Felia, or we don't really care if they have Razorgrass Ambush. Like if they want to shoot down our Conjurer, that's completely fine. If they have Felia, we're super sad that we made this attack, but that's a rare and is what it is. No Felia. Emissary is pretty good. They have enough energy to put 2 counters. So if they counter attack with the Goblin, I think we just trade the Conductor for it. So we get to block. The Goblin goes to being a 4/4. We block. We pay 3 energy and just shoot down the Goblin. So that basically kills one of their counters as well. So good job, Superconductor. You did it. We get to curve up to this Volt Storm Angel, which is nice. No energy being paid here, as we don't get haste. So we're just going to decline the payment, take our Angel, and then next turn we get to, if we draw land, we can go Gargoyle into Aerial Auxiliary. Actually, we could just Razorgrass Ambush as a land and go Gargoyle into Aerial Auxiliary and just make a nice beefy Air Force with a Conjurer backup to potentially... Yeah, no blocks. If they're attacking, then they have something that gets their guy over our Angel, right? So we drew the land, which means we don't have to use this ambush, which means we get to keep it, which is great. So, yeah, I like Gargoyle into Auxiliary here, but I guess we can do this where we keep up the Razorgrass Ambush. Okay. That's fine, too. Obviously, the Volt Storm Angel is very good at playing offense and defense, given that it gets Vigilance here. Also lifelink, which is nice. Very large lifelinking creature. Opponent has blue and double red up, which I don't think they can clear a 5/5 at instant speed with that, but there's nothing I can think of off the top of my head, at least. Ghost Fire Slice is 4 damage. Sink into Stupors, double blue. I can't think of anything. But okay, so they attack here. Double Exalted is fine, but they have no energy to give first strike. So this feels to me like a block and wait to see if they have like a Wing It or similar. This is bad if they have specifically the split second red card. The name escaped me just now, but yeah, that one. That's the one. That one's bad. So yeah, you see me raise up the Razorgrass Ambush like, okay, I'll kill it in response. I don't get a response because split second. The plan here was make the block, and then if they have a trick to try to save their Slith, then we just kill the Slith in response. But obviously split second, we don't get to do that. So that said, another Exalted counter down from our opponent. So that Emissary of Soulfire not quite getting to do the job that it wants to do. Alright, so Metastatic Evangel into Riddlegate Gargoyle, make some energy, gain a life, proliferate the +1/+1 counter on the Distinguished Conjurer and the energy. We have Razorgrass Ambush up. We get to attack for 3 in the air. We don't need the lifelink here, but like we can. We just have the energy. And then in a perfect world, we get to start flickering this Area Auxiliary over the next few turns, and that should be enough to seal out this game pretty quickly. Attack with Area Auxiliary and Gargoyle here. I don't really need to pay this here. Yep. And if we leave up our mana to respond to anything they might do with this Aether Revolt, to flicker in response, they would have to be dealing 5 damage to the Conjurer to clear it because of the proliferate. 6, sorry, because the proliferate plus the counter that I can put on it from the auxiliary. So opponent is kind of in a tough spot here. If they don't do anything, then we just kind of get to go nuts here. Yeah, Distinguished Conjurer, not generally speaking one of my favorite cards in this format, but boy is it good when we get to do stuff like this, right? That's a lot of value. 5 mana, get an area auxiliary every turn. Tune is fine. We still have enough mana to activate Conjurer. Might as well dig a card deeper, get some more energy. We also just have a lot of flying power now. And opponent is down to 1 card in hand. Yeah. I was going to say, we can actually attack with everything here, right? Because they have to block 3 things to not die, and then we eat their board. We would have lost our Metastatic Evangel if we do that, which is not great, but opponent packed it in. Okay, we have our colors. We have cards that we can cast. Like this hand is kind of what we signed up for. Drawing the Razor Gas Ambush is great because it makes sure that we don't just get run over since we're not doing anything in the first 2 turns. So, yeah, and then tune the narrative, make sure that we get to cast something even if we don't Razor Grass Ambush here. This is best case because they are adapting in combat, so we get to use the ambush to stop the adapt and make them waste their turn. So suddenly Razorgrass Ambush turned into Murder/Time Walk. Superconductor on 3 so that we curve out. And good old Writhing Chrysalis, everybody's favorite homie. So we can potentially beat the Chris with Tune the Narrative with Cyclops Superconductor. Becomes a 3/3 that then when it dies deals 3. So yeah, I like no attacks. The Tune is an instant, so we get to do this if our opponent attacks. Obviously, if they have more spawn to sacrifice, that's worse, but if they only have 1 more spawn, then it's still a trade. Propagator Drone, giving them all Evolve. Yep. Now they can attack or something. Obviously, they can't really attack into 1/2s and 2/2s, but they won't stay 1/2s for long. Evolve makes those spawn tokens grow very quickly into actual real threats. Propagator Drone has impressed me every time I've played it. Okay, so here we go. We get to block. They're not going to do anything. We tune. We get a prowess trigger. Okay, now they have to do something. Alright, they get a counter. That's fine. Our tune resolves. We accept this block, and then Superconductor triggers again. We will pay our energy and shoot this for 3, which our opponent can't get out from under with just the 1 spawn that they have. So, yippee, we killed a Chris. And we did it as a 1-for-1. Alright, Bridgeworks Battle, kill my Conjurer is fine. They're down tokens, like they're out of tokens. So, obviously I'd prefer to have my creature in play, but, like, all told, the way that board looked, we're in better shape than it could be. And there's a second Writhing Chrysalis, plus the Evolve, because it's a cast trigger. Propagator Drone is so good, Writhing Chrysalis is nuts. Did they... Okay, there it is. Not sure what the lag was, but... Alright. Area Auxiliary is a pretty okay draw for us. It gives our Envoy lifelink. I think it's still worth it, honestly, for us to do the thing. No? Okay. Second propagator drone. Fortunately, Evolve checks both on enter and resolution. Copy Crook copying an area auxiliary is pretty okay for me. Definitely gives me a much better board state than I had a second ago. I can't attack into this Writhing Chrysalis yet, though, because there's not a never-ending stream, but a seemingly never-ending stream of spawn tokens that are just going to keep growing this Writhing Chrysalis. We do have the Demon Inferior that can reset it, but that's not accomplishing much unless they have already sacrificed their tokens, and that seems like it's not going to happen. No kicker? No kicker on the Sowing Mica spawn. So they're interested in ramping, but not in spending their spawn, which makes sense to me. They get the double evolve here. And this is what I meant about those spawn tokens becoming real, actual, significant threats after a while. Like, opponent's board is a bunch of 3/4s that, if the 3/4s aren't good enough, can turn into +1/+1 counters on a Writhing Chrysalis. That's kind of scary, honestly. Okay, finding the Dog Umbra here is huge. The Demon Inferior doesn't really do anything. There's none of these creatures are things that I want to be putting back into our opponent's deck, except maybe like the Brood Scale. I guess the Propagator Drone, but whatever. Dog Umbra in combat, just get it onto the Chris so that it can't kill me. And we have this Area Auxiliary as a 4/4 that gets to attack. If we knew we were going to draw the Dog Umbra, then we could have attacked with the second Area Auxiliary, but obviously we can't know that, so. Right now, our Lifelinker and Double Flyer kind of holding the fort down. And we now have a 2-turn clock. We have double 4/4 Flyer, so if our opponent doesn't find another creature with reach, then these 2 Area Auxiliaries are a 2-turn clock. And the lifelinking Envoy can hold the ground pretty well, given what our opponent's board looks like. If they have another Bridgeworks Battle or a... I can't think of the name. The other fight spell that puts a +1/+1 counter. Alright, Depth Defiler here kicked. So bounce one of my creatures. Yeah, bounce the Envoy, that makes sense. But they lost both of their 3/4 spawn tokens to do it. So they get a 3/5, but it doesn't change the clock from my perspective. It does draw them 2 cards. So they are, they are closer to being able to deal with what all is going on. Sink into Stupor is pretty okay protection for me. Spell or non-land permanent, yeah, so. Envoy not tapping my blue mana. Yeah, okay. Just as long as it doesn't tap my blue mana, everything's okay. Here's the Envoy, which means that my auxiliaries get lifelink. I think it's correct to attack with both. Like I said, it's a 2-turn clock. Yep. We get to connive here, which is... Just discard the Angel here. Just discard the Angel. Okay. Sink into Stupor, make sure that nothing crazy off the top kills us. Like, the worst thing our opponent can do is whatever Eldrazi that potentially buys them a turn with a cast trigger, but they're at 7, we're at 33, and we can make sure that they don't have a reach blocker next turn because of the Sink into Stupor. So, we don't care if they attack. No blocks. Take the damage. You got it. Ow. And then whatever this is. If we care, we get to sink it. If we don't care, then we have lethal in the air. Good job, Envoy, giving us a nice life buffer. Thanks to these Aries. Petrifying Meddler. Yep, keep the big one tapped. Makes sense to me. So, Cyclops Superconductor, I'm pretty sure, is any target. Which means that if I realize that... Oh, Static Prison's great because it triggers the Cyclops. Okay, grab the reach blocker. Yep. Okay. And now this should be lethal. Just attack all. Okay. Good job, me. Figured it out. Oh, I guess it's not lethal because they just go chump chump. Take 4. The Cyclops doesn't die, which means it doesn't trigger. But again, like, we get to gain more life. We still have this Sink into Stupor. This Petrifying Meddler is not going anywhere. They continue to not have a reach blocker or a flying blocker. And we will be attacking with up to 3 lethal threats next turn because the Sink into Stupor can trigger the Superconductor. So if it doesn't get blocked, and if they kill the Superconductor, I believe that we can target them and they die. That's a reach blocker, but we can Sink into Stupor it. Sure. And again, like, we have 2 flyers next turn, so honestly we don't actually need to cast the Sink right there, as long as we stop them from blocking. That's all that matters. Or just get one of our 2 flyers in. So yeah, opponent very died, which is very good because their start was pretty solid. Also, that was a double Chris, I think. They had 2 Writhing Chrysalises, and we managed to get through them, so good job, our Jeskai deck that certainly didn't perform that well against LSV. Alright, another hand where we just have all 3 of our colors, so, like, it's very hard to mulligan a hand where you have your mana worked out in a deck like this. Could we mulligan aggressively to a better curve? Yes, but we're a little light on our 2-drops anyway, so making sure that we get to cast our spells in general is very important. Alright, turn 3 Repurposer from our opponent. And we are very likely just casting Tune the Narrative here. Yep. Just get some energy. Okay, we would like to draw spells at some point. We could have played the land. Nope, we needed to play the plane so that we could actually play our spell. 4-drop, we can copy Crook, copy maybe something that our opponent has. Or we can hold off on it until we have the Voltstorm Angel, although we do have the Conjurer, so that if we want to, we can go copy Crook, copy whatever our opponent has. Never mind, we drew Satya. We're just doing the Satya thing. Our opponent has a bunch of mana but didn't do anything. And we drew the Mythic Rare that we built our deck around, so let's actually cast it for the first time this week. Or draft, or whatever you want to call it. Here it is. It's a 3/5. Satya is like a legit, well-statted card on top of everything else. Like, 3/5 Menace Haste for 4 mana, and then on top of that, it just does stuff. Like, we get to attack all and copy this Conjurer, which isn't like a super relevant card to copy, necessarily. But it's just another dude, right? Like, now every creature we play gains us 2 life, which lets us race a little bit more effectively. It pays for itself with the energy that Satya makes, can cover any 2-drop in the deck. And yeah, like, our opponent kind of has to do something quickly, and we haven't done anything particularly relevant. Like, we just played the one good card. We played a bad card and a good card, and drew a card with Tune. Kozilek's Unsealing is cool, but a little slow. if they do start casting large threats next turn, obviously, like, drawing 3 cards at a time is worthwhile. They can leave back the Repurposer if they want to. They did not. So yeah, we get to just go Voltstorm Angel, copy Voltstorm Angel, attack with everything here. Gain some energy, gain some life. Attack all. Copy Angel, gain some energy, gain some life. Hit for a bunch. Keep the second Voltstorm Angel. Yeah. So we actually got to be the one who curved out. Yep, yippee, we did it. Our curve wasn't even all that impressive, but it was good enough. Satya is very, very good. It's also very, very fun, like I said. Alright, so we have Tune into Evangel into, hopefully, a 3-drop. Okay, Messenger. Second Cyclops, no red mana. Static Prison's not bad, but we don't need to lead on it. Let's get this Evangel down. Okay. I will draw that again, I guess. Third Cyclops is awkward. I don't think I want to take that Messenger with the Static Prison. Okay. Sure. I mean, we have it locked down for a while thanks to the Tune. Here's the Evangel that we knew we had and they knew that we were drawing. Okay, they do it. They have their second color here. A Cursed Marauder. It's fine. Okay, more red cards. We really need a land at some point. Preferably a red land. Commies, whatever. Land at least lets us cast something. So, here's an area auxiliary, because we're, like, I don't think we can just sit here doing literally nothing. Support. No matter how many times it pops up and I have no other targets, still can't target itself. It's only other. Alright, opponent on Esper, it seems. So, at least in my experience, the only reason to be in Esper specifically is Arna Kennerud. So I'm hoping that I don't run into that. But there are other cards that are worth splashing depending on what you're in, but obviously Arna Kennerud is very good. So we're going to pay off this this last one on the Emrakul's Messenger. We are now out of energy. We still haven't drawn a red source, so these triple Cyclops Conductors are stuck in our hand. One day, maybe, we'll find our red sources so that we can use these use this RAL as well, which can help clean up stuff. They get their flyer back. Feels bad, man. We can play the Ajani Fells the Godsire, but it doesn't do anything. We have a 3/3 blocker, at least for these flyers. Yeah, we need to get all land into play at least, so that we can cast the Ajani if they play something bigger, like the Arna Kennerud, for example. Gladly discard a Superconductor or a RAL. No blocks here, just take the 2 damage. Unfortunately, so I think I should have cast Razorgrass Ambush here. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to just kill off one of those things this turn. And I'm pretty sure that now that I'm have the ability to use my mana, it's possible that I just don't get another chance to use the Razorgrass Ambush, and that's very, very awkward. So yeah, I'm reasonably certain that I should have ambushed down one of those commies, especially like if they do cast an Eviscerator's Insight or similar. Like, I'm just taking 4 extra damage. Well, 2 extra damage because I didn't kill one of those commies. Crack this. They could have activated one of the commies, no? It's not a tap ability, right? It's just pay 5. So I think they missed an activation, unless I miscounted. So they have enough mana to use the Terramander. So here's, kind of what I was talking about. Like, we're tapping our mana here. Now the Terramander is too big to get hit by the Superconductor, but it does die to the Johnnies. But, once again, we don't have any mana left over. So, yeah. We do have our red mana finally, so we can start casting these Superconductors. We do still have Flying Blocker to deal with the Snacker or the Messenger, which haven't really gotten to do much. I don't mind trading off the 4/5 for one of the commies, and that's even better for me if I had Razorgrassed the first one, I think. I know I keep bringing it up, but like I haven't had another chance to cast the ambush. Okay, well, guess it wouldn't have mattered much. They would have just sacrificed like a sneaky snacker here and gotten it back later. If I had cleared both of the other commies. And they still have a commie left over. So we take 4 in the air. We no longer have a flying blocker. They have mana to activate this commie. They missed 1 activation earlier, so we would have been dead either way. So I guess I don't feel as bad. I cannot deal with everything they're doing, and if they untap with the commie, I am dead. Therefore, concede. So our mana obviously didn't work out that game. We drew all of our red cards? Question mark? No, we didn't draw the Satya. So we have 1 more red card in our deck. We drew all but 1 of our red cards, which feels not fantastic. But it's okay. We built the deck. We knew what we were doing when we made our mana the way we did, right? So, as far as losses go, that one's not the worst. Dream Drinker, Vampire, we tune. Okay. Best case scenario is they adapt and we respond with Razorgrass Ambush, Pyrosurfer, Landfall, Trigger, Attack. Okay. Okay. We take 3. Opponent, very aggressive start. Dog Umbra stopping the Pyrosurfer. Probably going to save us quite a bit of damage based on the potential battle cries from this start. We still have the Razorgrass Ambush that we can use. We have 2 rushes and 2 more lands. We do want to get this Voltstorm Angel, so yeah, I think getting a rush down because it's a guaranteed tapped land. If we draw the plains, everything else is untapped. We can either play the Gargoyle here as a blocker, but I don't think it'll get to block. I think we're going to use the Razorgrass Ambush this turn. There's the landfall, so far this Dog Umbra has saved us 2, 3, 4 damage. 5, 6, 7. That's fine. So now the Siege Smash makes us very unhappy here. +3, +2. Okay, they don't have it, so we get to kill off their lifelinker, take 1. They use their mana to adapt. Okay, so here's a Gargoyle. End of turn, we will find a second white source so that we can play out our Voltstorm Angel. Sure, opponent has a kill spell for the Gargoyle, that's fine. The Simulacrum is going to be able to do a pretty good job of clearing the Angel, unfortunately. Dog Umbra saving my life here. Wormcoil Larva, bad for me. Yeah, if we don't... Okay. If we don't draw something quickly, this angel is going to die to the Simulacrum, unfortunately. I don't think my opponent is going to take any time to not do that, so the auxiliary is not going to be able to get a counter on it before it's too late, I think. Yikes. Okay. That's actually okay. Yeah, to pay the energy, keep our stuff, play a land. This gives us the second red source if we draw Rowls, and then we can Ajani down the Wormcoil Larva. Realistically, what we're trying to do is find a way to get our... discard the island here. Find a way to get our Angel to stick without the Simulacrum just clearing it right away. That's ultimately the goal here. Ajani Fells the Godsire being very, very good versus the Wormcoil Larva because it won't split into the worms, which is good for us. Yeah, Wither and Bloom on the Larva is fine. That's one less thing that we have to worry about. We take one extra damage this turn, but that's okay. At least the counter isn't going on something that we weren't going to clear anyway. Another land is fine. Ajani Fells the Godsire, clear the Wormcoil Larva. We're still taking 3 a turn without our opponent really having to do anything, and we do still have to, play out these creatures. More evasive creatures here. It's a strange no attack. Not sure why this Simulacrum wouldn't attack there. Okay. Yeah, not sure why. Alright, what can we do? So we can play... We can play out the Satya, which does not just get shot down by the Simulacrum, but it also doesn't block or do anything particularly well here. It can attack and copy the 2-1, which is fine. If we play out the Angel, opponent's going to untap and shoot it down. If we play out the Auxiliary, it's very likely that the Simulacrum shoots it down, but at least this gives us the 3-2. That's fine. Holding it doesn't do much. There's nothing, at least in play, that we want to cast it on right now. We're taking 3 here, and probably the +1/+1 counter is coming off of our creature with the Slith, or maybe an energy. We have no blocks because Menace on the Slith, unfortunately. They're choosing to take an energy off of me. That's fine. Or not. Maybe they misclicked. I'm not sure. Second Simulacrum is a problem because now they have lethal in play, unfortunately. We can attack with this. It has double strike. They're just going to take damage. They don't care. And then we play out the blocker that doesn't just die to the Simulacrum, but it also doesn't stop what my opponent is about to do. So if they spend their mana on the Simulacrum to clear the 3-2, then they're in for 4, because I still can't block. Yup. I can't do anything about that. This time they take an energy. Mm-hmm. Okay. We crack a land. We really need to draw something here. Maybe we should have held on to the Sink into Stupor. Yeah, land doesn't do anything. Unfortunately, Satya is an attack trigger, and the angel doesn't give other things lifelink. So, like, we're going to get this angel. It's going to come into play tapped and attacking, which is fine. But we don't get to gain any life, and the Slith kills us, even though we have a flying blocker at this point. So yeah, the second Sarpadian Simulacrum making it so that we couldn't play the Angel last turn, just because the Simulacrum would have cleared the Angel. We never had a point in the game where we could stick the Angel with the lifelink. So unfortunately, we go 3-3 with that deck. The one game that we really got to do our thing with the Satya, it felt really good. That game we drew the Satya, but we could never set up a board where we had anything that we could attack with. We also never drew the Subtlety. Not that it matters, but just saying, we never actually drew the Subtlety. Yeah, I don't know. The deck was okay. This screenshot at the end, I apologize. The Battle Wagon was not in the deck. The Conjurer was instead. Yeah, we got to build a Satya deck. It mostly worked. We only had mana issues one game, really, where we just didn't draw red. But honestly, again, like we know what we did when we built the deck, right? We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total red sources, which, is maybe a hair light, but theoretically is enough. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed. This was a more fun draft than some of the other ones we had. We ran into and got our ass kicked by LSV, which, is going to happen occasionally. But anyway, have a good one, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.